have to just say, anyone who has doubted me over the past decade about this evil woman now needs to eat some humble pie.
The reason why these pictures are so problematic for Meghan Markle is because these pictures place her with Jeffrey Epstein.
Meghan is bottom of the barrel.
In fact, I've seen the tapes. I've got them somewhere. God knows where now. I've got them on some.
So you've seen Nudie Rudy Meghan too?
I've seen more than one thing.
She's a con artist.
It was really important to me. I remember where I come from.
It's going to be explosive.
I tried so.
Let me take you through what Tom Bower has revealed. He's told the Daily Mirror, I've got a lot of new material already and the world wants new insights. It's an amazing story.
Yesterday,
Anyone who has spent the last decade doubting the warnings about this woman now needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror. Because what is unfolding right now is not a tabloid rumor, not a conspiracy thread buried on some obscure corner of the internet. This is a story that has been building for years, piece by piece, source by source, document by document, and the walls are finally starting to close in. The reason these pictures are so damaging to Meghan Markle is simple.
So long there have been rumours that many of us believe are true, and I think someone like Tom Bower can get these across the line and get them in print and prove that they are.
They place her inside a world that the mainstream media has spent years pretending she was never part of. A world of yachts, of elite social networks, of men whose names appear in documents most people never thought they would see unsealed. Meghan is being connected to circles that powerful people have worked very hard to keep hidden. And that connection, no matter how many times it has been dismissed, simply will not disappear. There are people who say they have seen things, tapes, evidence, material that has never made it into any headline, that has been scrubbed, buried, or simply ignored by a press corps that, until very recently, refused to go anywhere near this story. Some of those people may be exaggerating, some may be lying, but some of them are not. And the difference between rumor and record is exactly what is beginning to shift right now. Tom Bower is not a tabloid gossip columnist. He is one of the most meticulous investigative journalists in British media. His track record is long and his methodology is serious. This is not a hatchet job. This is not a hit piece assembled overnight. Bower spends years on his investigations. He documents. He verifies. He sources. And when he tells the Daily Mirror that he has a lot of new material and that the whole world wants new insights into this story, people with credibility pay attention. He called it an amazing story. And if his previous work is any indication of what comes next, amazing may turn out to be an understatement.
A yacht girl, but just simply stating as a fact and then asking, was it double figures or triple in terms of how many yachts she was a guest on?
Let us go back to what Bower already revealed in Betrayal. Camilla's 6 words. The Centeably brand audit. The Johnny Depp comparison made at 40,000 feet. Sophie Chandaka telling Harry directly that his wife had destroyed his earning power. Each one of those revelations landed like a hammer. But today begins exactly where that story left off, because there are questions that remain completely unanswered. And those questions are now migrating from the fringes into the mainstream in a way that cannot be undone. Consider the record of Sussex responses over the years. Piers Morgan criticized them in print. Samantha Markle did the same. Valentine Lowe wrote an entire book. Thomas Markle Sr. spoke publicly for years. The response from the Sussex camp? Silence. Tom Bower published Revenge in 2022, accusing Meghan of social climbing, manipulation, and calculated image control. They said nothing. When Omid Scobie's Endgame accidentally leaked the names of 2 senior royals accused of racism.
And all the things that she has done to, pull other people down and to question them and their behavior.
They issued careful non-responses. They know how to stay quiet when staying quiet serves them. But something changed with Betrayal. 12 days before a single copy of that book shipped, before any reader had turned a single page, the Sussex spokesperson released what can only be described as the most aggressive public statement in their history. They called it deranged conspiracy and melodrama. And everyone, including this reporter, initially assumed the panic was about the brainwashing claim, or the Centeably collapse, or the Invictus footage. That was a reasonable assumption. It was also the wrong one, because when you read the serialized excerpts published in the Times of London, all of them, front to back, you notice something that does not add up. The material that genuinely scared them is not in the book. Not yet. The serialization covered Harry's isolation. It covered Camilla's warning. It covered the charity implosion. It did not touch the one subject that makes Bower's mainstream credibility truly dangerous to Meghan Markle. And that subject the one that had been living exclusively in independent media and anonymous online forums for 7 years, was about to find its way into print in a very different kind of publication. For days after those excerpts hit newsstands, someone at The Spectator decided to say the quiet part out loud. The Spectator is not a fringe outlet. It was founded in 1828. It is one of the oldest continuously published magazines in the English language. And on March 17, 2026, columnist Julie Burkill published a piece mocking Meghan's upcoming luxury women's retreat in Sydney, where tickets were priced at nearly 3,000 Australian dollars. The column was crude and personal, exactly the kind of thing you would expect from Burkill. But buried inside the ridicule was a single line that stopped people cold. She wrote that no one would get to ask anything interesting, like how many yachts Meghan had been a guest on before she met her prince. Was it double figures or triple? Read that again. That is not a question framing speculation. That is a statement of assumed fact followed by a question about scale. A columnist writing in a magazine that has been published since before the Civil War printed a direct reference to the yacht allegations. Not on YouTube, not on Reddit, not on a TikTok stitch. In The Spectator, with editors, with lawyers, after review. That distinction matters more than almost anything else in this story. For 7 years, these questions existed only in the world of independent media, anonymous accounts, and what the mainstream press dismissed as conspiracy forums. British outlets treated the topic as though it did not exist. And then, in a single column, that changed. The Meghan Markle yacht girl claims had refused to go away, but until that moment, no one in the mainstream had been willing to put them in print. That changed on March 17th. And once something like that is in print in The Spectator, it cannot be unprinted. Before going any further, a line needs to be drawn clearly, because this story has been polluted by fabrication, by misidentified photographs, and by conspiracy content so reckless that it got entire YouTube channels removed during the January purge. Some of what circulates online about Meghan's pre-Harry years is verified and sourced. Some of it is attributed to named individuals on the record, and some of it is completely made up. This report deals only with the first 2 categories. The facts cited here are on the public record. The analysis is interpretive. That distinction matters. Here is what is verified. Marcus Anderson, Global Membership Director at Soho House, Canadian-born, started as a waiter, climbed to become the right hand of founder Nick Jones. Anderson met Meghan during her Suits years in Toronto. He attended her royal wedding in 2018. He attended her baby shower in New York in 2019. Royal correspondent Katie Nicholl reported on Channel 4 that Harry asked Anderson to set up not a date, but an opportunity for them to meet in a private room at Soho House. Anderson was not the original matchmaker. Harry's own memoir confirms that Violet von Wessenholz first connected them through Instagram in July of 2016. But Anderson managed the logistics, the early dates, the introductions. He was the infrastructure of their relationship. Tom Bauer wrote in Revenge, his first Meghan book published in 2022, that Meghan attended Brett Ratner's parties in Hollywood several times per week for years, that she had been flown all over the world, that Suits cast members genuinely did not understand where she got the money to fly business class internationally. Meghan's childhood friend Nanaki Pretty told Bauer directly that Meghan was a conniving social climber who had her sights on snagging a prince ever since high school. Those are not this reporter's words. That is a direct quote from someone who knew Meghan Markle before any of this began. And here is where the story becomes genuinely uncomfortable. The man who owned approximately 60% of Soho House at the time was Ron Burkle, American billionaire, founder of Yucaipa Companies. Burkle's name appears in Jeffrey Epstein's address book. His name appears on Epstein's private jet flight logs. When the U.S. Department of Justice unsealed the second batch of Epstein court documents in January of 2024, Burkle's name surfaced again, not in a criminal capacity, but deep enough in the paperwork to generate significant headlines. Nobody, and this needs to be stated clearly, nobody has produced evidence of any direct relationship between Burkle and Meghan Markle. That claim does not exist in credible reporting. But the man who built the social infrastructure that delivered Meghan into Harry's world has documented connections to Epstein that are a matter of public record. And that proximity is exactly the thread that people like Burkill are now pulling at. In print, in mainstream publications, remember the name Burkle because it is about to come back. In February of 2026, days after Prince Andrew's arrest, a photograph exploded across every major platform. 7 women on a boat. Instagram smiles. Mediterranean sunshine. 2 red arrows drawn on top. One pointing to Meghan Markle, the other pointing to a woman identified in the caption as Karina Shuliok, Jeffrey Epstein's last known girlfriend, the woman who dated him from 2009 until his death. The caption came from RT, Russian state television, and it read Epstein's 10-year girlfriend with Markle. The post went nuclear. Hundreds of thousands of views, reposts across Facebook, Reddit, Threads, and X. Millions of people saw it within 48 hours. Here is the problem. Snopes investigated. The photograph is real. Meghan is in it. The image shows no signs of digital manipulation. But the woman identified as Karina Shulioc is actually Flavia Sirignano, an Italian lifestyle blogger who runs a page called The Chic Picnic. The original Instagram post, uploaded on August 10, 2016 by photographer Carlotta Duca, tagged Sirignano by name. Shulioc was never on that boat. But before you use that debunking to dismiss the entire story, stop. Because the correction actually sharpens the real questions rather than eliminating them. The photo is real. Meghan is on a yacht. The trip took place in the Mediterranean off the coast of Formentera in the Balearic Islands of Spain in August of 2016, just weeks before she began dating Harry. The women in that photograph include Misha Nanu, Heather Dorick, and Benita Litt, all confirmed by their own social media tags. Misha Nanu designed the shirt Meghan wore for her very first public appearance with Harry. She was at the center of every early introduction in that relationship. The fabricated Shulioc connection collapsed under scrutiny. Good. That is how accountability works. But the verified elements, the yacht, the network, the timing, the people, those did not collapse. They are sitting there, unchallenged and unanswered. And there's a reason they are unanswered. In December of 2021, something happened that the mainstream media covered for exactly one news cycle and then buried. David Boies, chairman of Boies Schiller Flexner, one of the most powerful litigation firms in America, sat for an interview with the Daily Beast. He was representing Virginia Giuffre in her civil lawsuit against Prince Andrew, and during that interview, he told journalist Tom Sykes that his legal team was actively considering deposing Meghan Markle, not as a defendant, as a witness. His reasons were specific, and they were published on December 21, 2021. First, she is in the United States, so we have jurisdiction over her. Second, she is somebody who obviously, at least for a period of time, was a close associate of Prince Andrew and hence is in a position to perhaps have seen what he did, and perhaps, if not to have seen what he did, to have heard people talk about it. Third, she is somebody who we can count on to tell the truth. Those are his words, published, on the record, in a major American outlet. Boies had a limited number of deposition slots. He would not waste one on a random celebrity. He was considering Meghan because he believed she had proximity and knowledge relevant to Andrew's conduct. He explicitly declined to consider deposing Queen Elizabeth, citing respect for her age and position. Meghan received no such exemption. Let that sequence register. David Boies, a lawyer who had successfully taken on the United States government, Hollywood studios, and Fortune 500 corporations, publicly stated that the Duchess of Sussex qualified as a potential witness in an Epstein-adjacent sexual assault case. Not because of gossip, because of documented proximity to Prince Andrew and the social circles surrounding him. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is a senior attorney conducting due diligence on national television. Virginia Giuffre was not an ordinary person. She fought Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew in some of the most powerful courts in the world. Her name is in the historical record. Her testimony helped bring a prince to his knees. When her lawyers named Meghan Markle as a potential witness, that was a serious moment. Not gossip. A legal and evidentiary calculation made by one of the most respected litigation teams in the country. The timeline that followed tells its own story. On January 12, 2022, Judge Lewis Kaplan denied Andrew's motion to dismiss. The case was heading toward discovery. Depositions were imminent. 5 weeks later, on February 15, 2022, Andrew settled for a reported £12 million. The case never reached the stage where Meghan would have been called. Virginia Giuffre took her own life in April of 2025 at her farm in Western Australia. She was 41 years old. Her family said the toll of the abuse she had suffered had become unbearable. Her posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, was published 6 months later. Boies did not operate in a vacuum. He knew about the Soho House network. He knew about Burkle's documented connections to Epstein. He knew about the overlapping elite social circles that connected Meghan's world to Andrew's world. He said all of it publicly, in print, in the Daily Beast. And Meghan Markle has never, not once, publicly addressed those statements. Not a response. Not a denial. Not a legal letter. Nothing. And then there is Jessica Reed Krause. She has spent 6 years investigating Meghan Markle's Yacht Girl past. 6 years. That is not a journalist chasing a story. That is a mission. When she releases her findings, what comes out may answer questions that have been sitting open for nearly a decade, or it may open new ones. But one thing is certain. The silence that covered this story for so long is not going to hold. This is the pattern that nobody talks about, not the allegations themselves, the silence around them. The Sussex operation
It's
knows
like a
how to fight
graveyard
back.
of abandoned
When
ambitions,
Bauer
and
published
Hollywood has
Revenge, they
noticed.
stayed
What
quiet,
particularly
but pushed
infuriates
back through sympathetic
Netflix,
outlets.
according to those familiar
When
with the
Scobie's
situation.
Endgame leaked
Meghan
racist
Markle
royal
and
names,
Prince
they
Harry
issued careful non-responses. They have lawyers. They have a PR machine. They know how to issue a specific, targeted denial when they want one, and they have wanted one on many occasions. They called Bauer's betrayal a deranged conspiracy. They accused him of constructing elaborate theories about people he does not know and has never met. PR expert Renee Smith, founder of the Atticism Agency, told The Express that the response made them look deeply bothered and that Bauer had clearly hit a nerve. But look closely at what that statement does not do. It attacks the author. It attacks the methodology. It attacks the motive. It never, at any point, specifically denies the Yacht allegations. It does not mention yachts. It does not mention Soho House. It does not mention Burkle. It does not mention boys. It does not address the pre-Harry social network at all. Every major public statement the Sussex operation has released since 2020 has been reviewed. There is not a single direct denial of the Yacht past claims anywhere in that record. Not from Meghan. Not from Harry. Not from Sunshine Sex. Not from Shillings. Not from any spokesperson in any outlet at any time. They have denied the brainwashing characterization. They have denied bullying staff. They have denied fabricating claims made in the Oprah interview. But the Yacht questions, the specific questions that Burkle printed in The Spectator, that boys raised in the Daily Beast, that independent researchers have documented for 8 years, those have received nothing. No comment. No denial. No legal threat. Just silence. Think about what that means. This is a couple that gave Oprah Winfrey a 2-hour primetime interview, that produced a multi-part Netflix documentary series, that published a memoir, that has responded to dozens of stories they considered unfair or inaccurate. They know how to fight back. They have the platform, the lawyers, and the resources to respond to anything. But on this particular set of questions, the Yacht, Burkle, boys, the Soho House network, the pre-Harry years, nothing, not a word, not from either of them. And consider Harry specifically. This is a man who left his country, walked away from his family, surrendered his titles, and burned every bridge he had built over 40 years of royal life. He did all of that for Meghan. He defended her in print, on camera, under oath. But on these questions, the ones that boys put on the public record in 2021, Harry has said nothing. Not in Spare. Not in any interview. Not anywhere. That silence is not accidental. And it is not nothing. When you attack the author of a book, but refuse to deny the specific claim your audience actually cares about, that is not a communication strategy. That is a tell. And the tell has been sitting there for years for anyone willing to look at it. There is one more piece that belongs in this record. Kevin Blatt, celebrity tape broker. He described a 2018 call from a woman who claimed to possess a 4-year-old tape featuring a woman about to marry a prince in England. Blatt said when he heard the details, he believed it was real. Whether that tape exists, whether it has ever been seen by anyone who could verify it, those questions remain open. But the claim itself is part of a pattern of material that has circulated for years and never been addressed directly. Here is where things stand today. Andrew was arrested on February 19th. The Department of Justice had released over 3 million pages of Epstein files 3 weeks earlier. Within 72 hours of that arrest, the Yacht past allegations moved from independent media to mainstream platforms with a speed that nobody in the Sussex camp was prepared for. Burkle printed the questions in The Spectator on March 17th. Dan Wooten broadcast fresh claims on his Substack show the next day to hundreds of thousands of listeners. And Bauer's betrayal gave the entire ecosystem of mainstream legitimacy, even though the book itself is focused on the post-Megxit years. That is why the Sussex response was so aggressive. Not because Bauer wrote about brainwashing, not because he exposed the Centeably disaster, because his book, serialized in the Times of London, published by a mainstream house, reviewed in every major British outlet, moved the Overton window. It made Meghan's past fair game for publications that had previously refused to touch it. Newsweek's chief royal correspondent Jack Royston warned of the Streisand effect. By attacking the book so publicly, the Sussex camp guaranteed more people would read it. By March 15th, Betrayal had hit #1 on Amazon before a single copy had shipped. The door was open. And when a door opens in mainstream British media, with legal teams behind it and institutional credibility backing it, it does not close. This analysis is based on the same public reporting available to everyone. The verified facts, the named sources, the court filings are all on the record. None of us were in those rooms. But when a Spectator columnist prints the question in a magazine that has published for nearly 2 centuries, when a senior litigator publicly names Meghan as a potential witness in an Epstein-adjacent case, when the woman who ran the brand audit tells Harry his wife is commercially toxic, and when the response to all of it is to attack every single messenger without ever once denying the actual message, that pattern speaks for itself. This is a globally known couple. They have built their brand on narrative control, on telling their story their way, on choosing their platforms and their interviewers carefully. But the story that is unraveling right now is not one they chose to tell. And the people telling it are no longer just anonymous accounts and independent channels. They are columnists in 200-year-old magazines. They are senior attorneys with national television platforms. They are former friends with names and memories and things they witnessed firsthand. At some point, silence stops being a strategy. At some point, silence becomes the story. The Yacht questions are only one piece of what is coming apart. Over 8 years, across 3 continents, 6 specific individuals tried to put this story on the record. None of them knew each other. All of them faced consequences for trying. And the pattern that connects what happened to each one of them is not a coincidence. It is a system. And that system is beginning to crack. That breakdown is the next